Be Wealthy and Smart, episode 1336.
Step into a world of wealth and financial freedom without budgets, boredom, or bosses on Be Wealthy and Smart. And now, here's your host, Linda P. Jones.
Welcome to Be Wealthy and Smart. I'm Linda P. Jones, America's Wealth Mentor, empowering women and men worldwide to financial freedom. On today's show, we're going to talk about how inflation is being a little stubborn. On Wednesday, we had government inflation data that showed that inflation was a little bit higher than what was being anticipated. The data as measured by the Consumer Price Index rose 3.5% from a year ago and 0.4% for the month. The CPI tracks the average changes in prices over time for certain consumer goods and services. Things that increased over the past 12 months by double digits included juices and drinks, motor vehicle insurance, and household repairs. But we have to keep in perspective that the CPI has declined from 9.1% from its year-over-year peak in 2022. So there has been great progress on bringing inflation down, but it's just not in the 2% range that the Fed wants to see. One piece of good news was that real wages, or wages adjusted for inflation, are now higher than they have been. After this hotter than expected reading on Wednesday, yesterday the wholesale prices index data came in, which rose less than expected. The producer price index rose 0.2% for the month, less than the 0.3% estimated, and not as much as the 0.6% that there was in February. However, on a 12-month basis, the producer price index climbed 2.1%, which is the biggest gain since April of 2023. And that has the Fed worried that pipeline pressures could keep inflation elevated. When you exclude food and energy, the core PPI also rose 0.2%, which met expectations. And if you exclude trade services from the core level, the increase was 0.2% monthly, but 2.8% from a year ago. On the better side, goods prices decreased 0.1%, which flipped a 1.2% increase in February. And final demand costs for energy, which have been on the rise lately, actually fell 1.6% on the month. But wholesale prices for final demand food and goods, less food and energy, climbed 0.8% and 0.1% respectively. And although gas prices have been rising at the pump, the final demand index for gas fell 3.6%. which contrasted with the Consumer Price Index, which showed gas up by 1.7% on the month. So basically, we have some things higher, some things lower. We're getting mixed data, and the Fed is having a hard time getting to its 2% inflation target. In a nutshell, what's happened is last year, the Fed talked about having 6 rate cuts this year because inflation was coming down fairly dramatically. The market raced ahead of that and anticipated 6 rate cuts and moved rates a lot lower. Now, with some of the current data coming in a little bit stronger than expected, interest rates have backed up some, where mortgage rates are back around the 7% level, and now the Fed is revising their cuts to maybe just 2 this year. Meanwhile, in Europe, things are looking weaker than they have been, and they may start cutting rates overseas before we get rate cuts here. So it's the mix of data and some of it being stronger and some of it being weaker that's throwing things off a little bit and causing some confusion. But overall, inflation is moving in the right direction and there's really nothing to worry about. It's just a matter of when are we going to get our first rate cuts. Again, this is an election year and the Fed is likely to do it sooner rather than later. If you haven't yet subscribed to Be Wealthy and Smart, hit the subscribe button and you'll be notified as soon as new podcasts are available. And all of my podcasts are on my website at lindapjones.com/podcasts. And while you're there, sign up for my weekly newsletter for more wealth tips for your financial freedom. That's all for today. Until next time, live the good life and be wealthy and smart.
Thank you for listening to Be Wealthy and Smart with Linda P. Jones. Share the wealth and tell your family and friends about the show. Check out our website, blog, and social media for more riches at www.bewealthyandsmart.com.